As I caught the scent of pumpkin spice and cinnamon, I was lured out of my drab room by the sound of Monster Mash blaring from my mother's vintage radio. My mother was a solitary figure, having separated from my father when I was 11. Now, at 16, I found myself reluctantly embroiled in her annual tradition of decorating for every holiday, a pastime she clung to with great fervor. "Mia, my dear," my mother exclaimed, her lips a garish shade of red stretched into a wide grin. Her hands were smothered in orange goo, like a macabre coffin. A glance at the counter revealed that she was attempting to make a pumpkin pie from scratch, yet again. "Hey, Mom." I edged away, making my way towards the fridge to grab a soda. "What's going on?" "I'm making a pie." Upon closer inspection, I realized she had also managed to get the bright red coloring on her teeth. Disgusting. "Would you like to lend a hand?" "I'll skip it," I said, as I opened my soda can and took a satisfying sip. The kitchen was a mess, as if someone had murdered a pumpkin. Orange fibers and seeds stained the marble countertops, while the pumpkin's hollowed-out remains lay on the table. "Wow, you really went all out, Mom." "Why do you have to be such a stick in the mud?" she complained, her fingers digging into the pumpkin's insides. "Mom, I hate Halloween," I replied, rolling my eyes. "I hate scary stuff. I hate the cute little specials they have. Halloween used to be about scaring away the devil in small villages during the Dark Ages. You'd think we'd have moved on from those old superstitions by now." "It's not about superstition, Mia. It's about having fun. Looking ridiculous isn't fun." My mother let out an exasperated sigh. A moment later, her expression fell. "We're out of sugar." This was my opportunity. "Shall I check if Tony has some to spare?" Tony was my childhood companion, someone I shared numerous secrets and embarrassing stories with. My mother's face registered confusion. "Tony?" She turned towards me as though I had lost my mind. "He's our neighbor." "I thought our neighbor was a woman." "That must be his mother." I had never met Tony's mother before, only heard of her during his childhood. However, the stories always seemed outdated. "Honey, I don't think she has a son named Tony. I've seen her at the market, and she's only ever been accompanied by a young girl. Well, obviously. He despises shopping." My mother's face brightened with a small smile as she wiped her hands on her apron. "All right, Mia. Why don't you go ask that Tony boy for some sugar?" "Mom, he's real. I'll prove it to you," I exclaimed, eager to dispel any doubts about my imaginary friend. "I believe you. Now go ask him," my mother replied. What I didn't realize was that my mother thought I had finally embraced my love for the spooky season. With a huff, I grabbed my oversized coat from the hook on the kitchen wall. "I'll bring him back with me," I promised, tossing my empty can in the trash before stepping outside into the chilly autumn air of rural Salem, Massachusetts. I had to walk half a mile through the woods to get to Tony's house, but it wasn't the typical spooky walk through the woods with creepy sounds and eerie shadows. The sun shone through the trees and the birds chirped, irritating me as I walked. After 30 minutes, I arrived at Tony's small and rundown house. I noticed a blue rusted truck in the driveway, which I had never seen before during my visits. As I approached the door, I knocked, using the signature rhythm that Tony and I had established. 3 short raps, followed by a sharp slap. After waiting in the cold for about 10 minutes, the door finally opened to reveal a short and frumpy woman peering down her long, warty nose at me. "Is your mother home?" I asked, hoping to borrow some sugar for my own home. "Yes," she replied. "Of course. Come in out of the cold and warm up with some hot chocolate. I'll go grab some from my storage room." Grateful for the warmth, I stepped inside and took in the familiar surroundings. I had spent countless autumn afternoons playing in this house, feeling the chilly breeze drifting in from the open windows. Suddenly, a loud growl erupted in my ear, causing me to spin around in fright. "Tony?" I whispered, my eyes widening and my heart racing with anticipation. My attention was abruptly interrupted by the sound of shattering glass. My gaze shifted from the empty space I had been fixated on to a fallen picture lying face down on the floor. With a deep breath, I approached the picture and gingerly picked it up, relieved to see that the glass hadn't been damaged. The boy in the photograph was more familiar to me than my own father. His dark hair, dark eyes, and sly smile were instantly recognizable. Tony. I couldn't help but smile as I traced my thumb over the smooth glass. "Mia?" Tony's mother's voice broke through my reverie. and I turned to see her holding a bag of sugar. "Oh, thank you," I replied, but I didn't move. "Is Tony here?" A dark expression crept across her face, causing her smile to drop and a scowl to form. "Tony," she said, tilting her head and staring into my soul with beady eyes. "I consider Tony a friend," I said with a bright smile, hoping to make a good impression on the woman and be someone she would trust with her son's company. The woman laughed nervously and glanced around. "I'm sorry, that's not possible. Tony isn't here." "Oh, where is he?" I asked. "What do you mean?" she replied. "I mean, when he comes back, could you send him over to my house?" "My mother doesn't believe he's real," I said with a laugh, making light of my mother's skepticism. "I'm afraid that won't be possible, Mia. Tony has been dead for 10 years now," the woman said, wringing her hands. "What?" I gasped, staring at her in disbelief. Then it dawned on me. "Wait, my mother put you up to this, didn't she?" I laughed heartily, shaking my head. "Okay, you got me. So where's Tony really?" "I mean it, Mia. My son passed away 10 years ago in 1998, I confessed, realizing that I had never introduced myself. "Could you please get me a glass of water? I'm not feeling well," Mia requested. "Of course, dear. It's probably just the shock. I'll be right back," I assured her before heading out of the room. As soon as she was out of sight, I rushed towards the wooden door next to the stairs. This was Tony's bedroom, the place where I had spent countless afternoons with him. With cautious hands, I opened the door, and a gust of air blew past me, tossing my hair across my face. "Tony?" I called out, hoping for a response. Suddenly, I heard his voice coming from the closet. "Mia, help me!" Without any hesitation, I rushed to the closet and opened its doors. A pungent odor of burnt flesh filled my nostrils, and I found a horribly disfigured boy standing in front of me, his face contorted into a grotesque smile. "Mia," he croaked, extending his hand towards me. I gasped, stumbling backward and landing on my bottom. "Tony, what happened to you?" I asked, bewildered by the sight before me. The thing snarled, fixating on a point behind me. "She's responsible for what happened to me. She'll face the consequences." Startled, I hurriedly backed away and collided with a pair of legs, Tony's mother. "It's not funny anymore!" I wailed, my eyes brimming with tears. "Please stop!" Tony's mother seized my arm and forcefully escorted me out of the room, slamming the door shut behind us. "You don't know what you're doing," she seethed, her gaze ablaze with fury. "Tony is no more." Perplexed, I interjected, "What's happening here?" A dark-haired girl around my age appeared in the doorway, her hair falling over her face. "She killed him," she said, and I gasped. "What?" "Mia, I expected more from you," she said, her eyes glowing with a red hue. "The devil tempted me with an irresistible deal for eternal life," she explained. "And now he's offering me another deal." "What deal?" I asked nervously. "He wants me to become his bride in exchange for eternal power, using the life of a young and beautiful girl," she said, her voice cold and calculating.